did you meet Martin Luther King, and what was the quality of your relationship with him?
I was on a train going to theological school. I had 2 children. They came down with chicken pox. But we had to take the children off, bring them to New York, and I had to continue because I was already late for the classes. I had 3 suitcases, great big brown box. I put them on a bus, and we went to theological school, and I'm looking at the sidewalk and wondering, how am I going to get them, how can I get them up to that building way up there, a block away? Because if I leave them here very long, people are going to steal them. And the fella came down through the trees, side, and he said, "You look like you need a hand. I'm Martin Luther King." And I've been looking throughout my whole ministry for that hand, and I find it everywhere. It's amazing how Martin's hand has reached out and touched me. His hand, but also friends of his who touched me in my life.
After 3 years of theological study at the Crozer Theological Seminary in Pennsylvania, where he was elected president of a predominantly white senior class, Martin Luther King was awarded the BD. With a fellowship won at Crozer, he enrolled in graduate studies at Boston University, completing his residence for the doctorate in 1953 and receiving the degree in 1955. Did you keep in touch with Martin? Do you call him after seminary and by correspondence or phone?
We were both very busy, but we did. I received a couple of letters from him, and his wife called me a couple of times after his death and asked me if she could have a copy of the letters. I didn't keep them. I didn't know he was going to become famous. He was just a guy in the class and a fellow that we talked to, and he and I talked and walked around the campus from time to time. But he called me a couple of times, and I called him, and received a couple of letters. That's about it.
In Boston, Martin met and married Coretta Scott, who we just talked about, a young woman of uncommon intellect and artistic attainments. They had 2 sons and 2 daughters were born into the family. Did you have a chance to meet Coretta or Martin's children?
Yes, I met Coretta and the children. We chit-chatted through time, just chit-chatted. She wanted to know where those letters were that he sent me. I don't know.
I did some research in preparation for this talk today, and here's something really interesting. And after some statement of facts, I'll ask a question here. In the 11-year period between 1957 and 1968, King traveled over 6 million miles. He spoke over 2,500 times, appearing wherever there was injustice, protest, action, and meanwhile he wrote 5 books as well as numerous articles. In these years he led a massive protest in Birmingham, Alabama that caught the attention of the entire world, providing what he called a coalition of conscience, and inspiring his letter from a Birmingham jail, a remarkable manifesto of the Black Revolution. He planned the drives in Alabama for the registration of Negroes as voters. He directed the peaceful march in Washington, D.C. of 250,000 people, to whom he delivered the famous "I Have a Dream" speech. He conferred with President John F. Kennedy and campaigned for President Lyndon Johnson. He was arrested upwards of 20 times and assaulted at least 4 times. He was awarded 5 honorary degrees, was named Man of the Year by Time magazine in 1963, and became not only the symbolic leader of American blacks, but also a world figure. Did any of this surprise you as you followed Martin's career?
All of it. No, not really. We knew that Martin was a very outspoken man and with a warm heart and a great mind. We knew that. And he was a person who was alive. And one of the rare things he did over and over again, he looked at the whole of something instead of the part. He looked at the whole of relationships. He looked at the whole of the people in the street. He looked at the whole problem as clear as anybody could. He was quite a guy. And I want to remind you, he was not a saint. He was a man, a live and vital human being. Let's not make him a saint. Let's not put him higher and higher. Nobody can touch him. It's okay to touch Martin and be part of it. It's a power that is in itself. I've asked myself, what if Jesus of Nazareth, the man, had not been made a God? What if he had not been made the Lord of Lords? What if he would have been a person which he was? Let's not make him a saint. And Greta follows me with this.
When we were talking this morning, I asked Reverend Charles about that very thing, and said, well, you were already a pastor at the time when he met Martin Luther King, and King was just starting his career out in seminary. And Charles said that he would go out on Saturday nights, well dressed.
He wore the best clothes. Here's this guy in jeans that he wore. He had what, 5 suits, 3 suits, I don't know. But he was on top of the world, and he was a wonderful, wonderful individual just to talk to. He didn't really have to go very deep in theology, psychology, or anything else, just to talk to. He was a good fellow.
A film called The Negro and the American Promise was produced in 1963 for national educational television, which featured King, Malcolm X, and James Baldwin. The film reveals how much more passionately and angrily those two black leaders had disagreed at the time in their approaches to white America and radical change. Even as a boy, I felt that dichotomous aspect of both approaches. I wanted racial equality instantaneously, as Malcolm X did, but I felt it was important not to alienate white America as Martin Luther King did. And this film was produced after your time with Martin. How did you, as a white clergyman, address the issue of how to effect the change that was so needed, and whose approach to it was best in private and public?
Well, for me, I was pastor of a church, and you had to evaluate what's going to happen to the church and be honest about it. And so we had black ministers come in and speak, and it made it clear that where I was, there's no doubt about that in my mind, because I told the story over and over and over again. When I was a little boy, I went to school without any breakfast, most of the time. I lived in a peculiar places and slept wherever there was a place to sleep. But there was this woman, a fellow, a black young man, my age, and I would go by his house and he would see me, and his mother would say, "Charles, come here," and feed me breakfast. This wonderful, wonderful black woman put her arms around me and pulled me close to her. Wow. This kid really woke up. That was okay to love a black person. It's okay. And so I had no problems at what many people did. And many white ministers had real problems, how to face it, because of the white communities were concerned. But it takes a lot of courage. I like to use the word guts to oppose any movement. It takes a lot of courage to start one. It takes a lot of courage to be whole. and try to see people as being whole. It's not easy. It takes a lot of love and a lot of inner strength. Just in my mere little way, I've had people have prayer meetings for me. I have letters in a file at home telling me that I'm a sinful man and I'm leading people to hell. Shucks, I didn't know anything about that. We all have the struggles in our life to be bigger than what we are. We all have the struggles within our life to be more open than what we are. We all have the struggles in our life to be more meaningful in time, and more meaningful now than we are. And that's Martin. He was willing to face these things and be in the now. Be open. Be honest. And at times when he got angry, you better run. Because he had the ability to be angry, but then he had the ability to pray. And every word that he prayed, he meant. Love flows like a mighty stream. And it does. And sometimes we forget that. Sometimes we forget it because we don't pray enough. Or we read a prayer out of a book. As if it's something for us. And it's really out of the heart. That's where Martin and I talked, interacted.
Well, when you were talking with him after seminary and during the time of his leadership, did he describe to you his struggles working with other black ministers who wanted to appease the white power structure or go slow towards equality? Did he do that?
Well, he didn't identify anybody, but he certainly talked about how everybody wants to slow down. Let's slow down. Let's slow down. But you're going to do something. It's like eating. You do it or you don't. It's like loving. You do it or you don't. And let's slow down. We don't want to upset those people over that side because these people, let's slow down. Take it easy. And you don't take it easy loving. You don't take it easy caring. You don't take it easy praying. Put it another way, you don't take it easy being yourself.
Did he ever describe to you this sort of how the mantle of leadership weighed on him? Did he ever discuss that with you?
Only when he wanted to get rid of it. There were times when he was so afraid that his baby girl and his wife would be hurt. The biggest fear in his life was those people around him. And this was his biggest fear. And he was concerned enough that, there was a time where he said, I have to quit. I have to quit. Because he was threatened. And he was given 3 days to leave town. And he was threatened and he had to quit. And this broke him up, but he was concerned not about himself. In fact, I called him one time, we were talking, and I said, Martin, your insurance paid up. He said, Charles, I don't have any insurance. Who would insure me? And he said, but I can handle what's happening. I can handle what's happening. And he could, and he did.
Did you ever discuss with him his frustrations with white clergy reluctance to engage in the civil rights issues?
This made him almost ill.
Really?
Because if there was somebody with a camera around and they wanted to take a picture, there would be all kinds of white ministers around. But if he had to interact with some process that was happening to him at that moment, they wouldn't be found. Or a few of them would. He knew who he could call on. For instance, wasn't white, he was black, but he was a singer. Do you know what it was?
I don't know.
was a great singer.
Seminary Belafonte.
Belmonte
Oh,
was his money man.
Oh, really?
Belmonte was his money man. And he went, when he needed money, he would call Belmonte. And Belmonte was one who said, keep it quiet. And he did. Most people didn't know it. And, which is something else that most people don't know. Do you know, I have a dream? Do you know that speech was not in the speech?
Yeah.
It was his speech that he gave everywhere. All ministers have one. I have one that's called The Little Things That Count. And I can give it, in the back room, in the front room, and so could he. So when he said, I have a dream, he was talking deeply to himself. He was giving himself strength again. I have a dream that someday, someday, he was giving himself hope.
Charles, self-leadership is a necessary quality in one who would wish to be a leader. The visionary is often not a leader. How did Martin Luther King embrace those two qualities from your personal perspective?
Well, his leadership was in small groups. He put together teams, people who worked in small groups, ministers, non-ministers, people in various groups and everything. That was his leadership. That was the leadership conference. And then these small groups would invite people, more people to come in when they had their conference, and that was his means. But his other aspect of his life was in large groups. I have a dream. And many groups, large groups, so that he was able to work from this area to this area and be alive in the process of doing it.
On the evening of April 4th, 1968, well, as we were saying, while standing on the balcony of his motel room in Memphis, where he was to lead a protest march in sympathy with striking garbage workers, he was assassinated, as you know. What was your reaction to the news of Martin's death?
Well, we got the news, that he was shot. And they turned to some people and said, he's dead. How did I know? Because they would never have said he was just shot. I mean, dead. They would never say that. They would say he's shot to let people mill in at it. But I was sick. I knew it was coming, like Martin knew it was coming. But I was sick. It happened. And I wish I would have been a fundamentalist Christian at that moment. And I could have believed in a lot of fundamentalist ideas that you go to heaven right away, and that would have been nice, but I wasn't there. I cried. But he was real to me. And I'd like to move away from this for a moment. When Martin got a telephone call and said, "Nigger, if you aren't out of your town in 3 days, we're going to blow your brains out and blow up your house." And there was a click. Martin was totally discouraged. He said, "I have to quit. I don't want my wife or children hurt. This is the end." But how can he quit? How can I quit? But there's no choice. I have no other choice. I have to quit. And then he heard something deep within him. You can't even call your daddy. He said, "It's 175 miles away. You can't call your mommy. She's away too." He put his head in his hands and bowed over a table. "Oh Lord, I'm here trying to do what is right. And I'm losing my people without strength and courage. I'm faltering. I need an inner strength. He sat there, his head bowed down, but then felt something. He didn't know for sure what it was, but he felt something, a striking within himself. And he started to shake. And it seemed that an inner voice was speaking to him. Martin Luther, stand up for righteousness. Stand up for justice. Stand up for truth. And I will be with you always. I will be with you always. And Martin said, I knew it was true. With all the philosophical courses I've taken, all the theological courses I've taken, I put it together and made me feel comfortable, but this was true. And I couldn't stop shaking. And I couldn't stop crying. But I found the energy to go on. I found the truth within myself. In deeper process of our lives, we all have touched that source sometime in our life where we needed some extra to go on, something extra to reach out, something extra to open up our mind. Call it what you will. But we found it. That was Martin Luther King. And not just Martin. I've known many people who found extra energy. Where do you think it comes from? Where an elderly woman sees her son, her grandson, a car is on top of him, and she picks up the car. And there's all kinds of reported cases like this. Where do they get the strength? Where do they get the inner courage to even try to do A, B, and C, and D? You and I have just touched a little bit of life. To find out more, we have to go deep within ourselves and find a greater truth. Let us pray. May we open our lives to greater possibilities than we now see. May we open our lives to greater truths that would touch us and help us be whole. May we seek an inner consciousness